For as long as anyone could remember, Earth had been a quiet, unassuming blue planet floating in the vastness of space. To the humans who lived on it, life went on in ordinary ways. People worked, played, studied, and dreamed, mostly unaware that the planet they called home was being watched. What they did not know was that countless alien civilizations across the galaxy had their eyes on Earth. These civilizations were advanced, with technology far beyond anything humans could imagine. They observed silently, debating among themselves whether humanity would ever reach the level necessary to join the greater cosmic community. Some saw potential in humans, while others saw only a primitive, fragile species that might be dangerous if allowed to grow too powerful. And yet, for centuries, nothing seemed to happen. Earth remained peaceful, spinning quietly around the sun, while life continued as it always had. People went about their daily routines, oblivious to the countless eyes watching them from distant star systems. Then, without any warning, something impossible happened. One night, when billions of humans were asleep or finishing their ordinary days, Earth disappeared. Not with a bang, not with a catastrophic explosion, but in a way that no one could explain. Maps no longer showed the familiar blue dot circling the sun. Navigational records, both human and alien, simply found empty space where Earth had been. The entire planet, with its mountains, oceans, cities, and people, vanished as if it had been erased from existence. Scientists, astronomers, and scholars around the world could only stare at their instruments in disbelief. Nothing in their understanding of physics, astronomy, or cosmology could explain such an event. Satellites that had once orbited the planet sent back no signals. The moon, left behind, hung silently in space, no longer held by the planet it had orbited for millions of years. Humanity was gone in an instant, leaving behind only questions, confusion, and terror. The disappearance of Earth did not go unnoticed in the wider galaxy. Alien empires, many of which had long monitored humans, reacted immediately. Councils of leaders, representing species that had mastered technologies humanity could not even imagine, convened in crisis. They demanded answers, each accusing the other of some secret experiment, a forbidden weapon, or an act of cosmic sabotage. Accusations flew across star systems like lightning, but no proof ever emerged. There were no traces of destruction, no signals, no warnings, only the absence of the blue planet. Entire species debated what could have caused it. Some theorized that Earth had been abducted by an incredibly advanced civilization, one far beyond the known powers of the galaxy. Others feared it had entered some strange dimension or parallel universe, a place where the normal rules of time and space no longer applied. But despite the arguments, no one could solve the mystery. The fact remained, Earth was gone. For humans, the disappearance of their home was complete. People vanished from existence, leaving behind a world frozen in time. Cities, roads, and monuments remained empty, as though the planet itself had been stripped of its inhabitants in a blink. There were no last messages, no final broadcasts, no signs of farewell. Even the natural rhythms of the planet, the winds, the tides, the movement of clouds seemed to pause for a moment, as if the world itself had been shocked into silence. Across the galaxy, species that had once feared humanity now debated what to do with the absence of the planet. Some chose to expand into territories Earth had once occupied in their records, while others hesitated, fearing the unknown power that might have removed a whole world in an instant. The fear that humanity could return stronger and changed became a silent, ever-present concern among these empires. They realized that if Earth ever came back, it might not be the same vulnerable planet they had once known. Humanity might have evolved or acquired power far beyond imagination. As centuries passed, the galaxy began to move on, though the memory of Earth never faded. Star maps were updated, and new colonies were built in the spaces that had once been defined by the Earth system. Scientists catalogued new planets, studied distant phenomena, and developed technologies that would have been unimaginable 1,000 years earlier. Yet, in quiet corners of the galaxy, discussions about the vanished Earth never stopped. Ancient legends began to form. Some species spoke in hushed tones of the blue world that had vanished, imagining what it might look like if it returned. Stories spread among traders, explorers, and scholars about strange energy signatures, anomalies in space, and mysterious sightings of objects resembling Earth's technology drifting near unexplained rifts. The very idea of humanity became a mixture of myth, legend, and fear. A civilization that might have been small and weak, but which had left a mark on the galaxy so profound that no species could ever forget it. Among humans themselves, if any remnants had survived in some unknown way, the memory of the vanished Earth became a story told in fragments, a legend carried forward without clear origin. Perhaps in a higher dimension, or in some hidden place outside normal space. Humans learned, adapted, and grew in ways they could never have imagined while on Earth. Their absence became their survival, their disappearance a preparation for something far greater. Meanwhile, back in the observable universe, the galaxy continued to develop and expand. Alien empires rose and fell, wars were fought and forgotten, and technology advanced at speeds that would have been impossible during Earth's time. And yet, the question of the vanished planet remained at the back of every thinking species' mind. Where did Earth go? And what could happen if it ever returned? The disappearance of Earth also created an unexpected ripple in the natural laws of the galaxy. Scientists noticed slight anomalies in gravitational fields, disturbances in the orbits of nearby planets, and small fluctuations in energy readings across distant star systems. These anomalies were subtle, almost impossible to measure precisely, but they hinted at something extraordinary. Perhaps the planet had been transported to another dimension. Perhaps it existed in a state outside normal space-time where centuries could pass in what felt like moments. Or perhaps some alien force had intervened, taking the planet to study it, protect it, or transform it. Whatever the truth, it was clear that the universe itself had been affected by the disappearance of Earth. In a way, the vanished planet became a mystery that reshaped the understanding of life, physics, and existence itself. No one could ignore it, and no one could dismiss it. The absence of Earth was felt by every species that knew it, like a shadow stretching across the stars. Despite the fear, curiosity, and debate, the vanished Earth also sparked hope. Many speculated that humans might have survived in some form, that their disappearance was not the end but a new beginning. Legends of the vanished planet inspired explorers, dreamers, and scientists alike to look beyond their own systems and to search for the impossible. Humans who had been watched as fragile, primitive creatures now became symbols of potential and endurance. The question of Earth's return became not only a fear for empires but a fascination for those who dared to imagine the unimaginable. Could a small, seemingly insignificant species overcome the vastness of the galaxy? Could they return after 1,000 years of absence, with knowledge and power no one could anticipate? The mere possibilities sent ripples of excitement and anxiety across civilizations, fueling theories, alliances, and even secret preparations for an eventual encounter. And so, Earth remained gone, suspended in mystery, leaving the galaxy to wonder. The human story had paused, but it had not ended. In that pause, the universe changed. Stars continued to burn. Civilizations continued to rise and fall, but all the while, the thought of the vanished planet lingered in every corner of space. It became a silent promise that one day, Earth might return not as the fragile world it had once been, but as a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For now, though, it was simply gone. The blue dot had vanished from the heavens, leaving a void that no star, no planet, no empire could fill. And in that void lay the potential for a story that would one day shake the very foundations of the galaxy. After Earth vanished, the galaxy could not simply forget it. The disappearance left a void not only in space but in the hearts and minds of every civilization that had ever noticed the small blue planet. Centuries passed, and in that time, empires rose and fell, alliances were formed and broken, and technology advanced in ways no one could have imagined 1,000 years earlier. Planets were colonized, new star systems were mapped, and entire species evolved, adapting to the ever-changing galactic environment. Despite all this, the memory of Earth's disappearance lingered like a shadow, a constant reminder that something beyond the understanding of the galaxy had occurred. It was impossible to ignore, impossible to dismiss, and impossible to fully understand. And with that memory came fear. If Earth could vanish once, what prevented it from returning, more powerful than anyone could imagine? The question haunted the minds of rulers, scholars, scientists, and explorers alike. Alien empires that had once watched humanity closely now debated in secret about the implications of the vanished planet. Some feared that Earth had been transported to another dimension, where time flowed differently and where humans could evolve and develop beyond their current capabilities. Others thought that perhaps an advanced civilization had intervened, taking Earth for reasons unknown. They worried about what humans might become if they had been nurtured by forces far beyond ordinary comprehension. Generals and scientists alike speculated about the potential threat of a civilization that had experienced 1,000 years of accelerated growth, learning, and technological advancement. The more they thought about it, the more their fear grew. If humanity returned, they might not be the fragile, unarmed species they had once known. They could return with knowledge, skills, and power capable of reshaping the galaxy. Meanwhile, stories about the vanished Earth began to spread throughout the galaxy, creating myths and legends. Traders passing through distant systems spoke in hushed tones of strange sightings near the old coordinates of the solar system. Some claimed to see faint energy patterns or traces of unknown technologies drifting in the void where Earth had once orbited. Others described glimpses of small, human-shaped beings on uninhabited moons or on abandoned space stations. No one could verify these claims, and many dismissed them as fanciful tales. But the stories persisted. They traveled from star system to star system, stirring curiosity, fear, and excitement among the various species. For many, the idea that humans might still exist somewhere, learning, adapting, and preparing to return, was both thrilling and terrifying. As the centuries passed, civilizations in the galaxy continued their lives, but they always kept a careful watch for anomalies. Scientists began developing new technologies designed to detect energy signatures, dimensional rifts, and unexplained phenomena. Fleets were stationed near strategic points where Earth had once been, in case of a sudden reappearance. Some empires even began to prepare secret contingencies, imagining the day when humans might return. Was it possible that humans had been trained, enhanced, or educated by a higher intelligence during their disappearance? Could they have developed weapons, ships, or abilities beyond the reach of any other species? These questions fueled covert research programs and military projects that spanned generations. Entire worlds were dedicated to monitoring the void where Earth had once existed. And though centuries went by without a single concrete answer, the galaxy never stopped anticipating the return of the vanished planet. The theories about what happened to Earth were as diverse as the species discussing them. Some thought that humans had entered a dimension where time moved differently, allowing them to live, learn, and evolve at an accelerated pace. Others believed that Earth had been transported across space to a distant part of the galaxy, hidden from view, where humans could build a civilization free from interference. Some of the more imaginative species speculated that humans had encountered a mysterious ancient intelligence being that existed beyond time and space and had been trained by them to achieve abilities and knowledge far beyond the rest of the galaxy. Every theory carried the same underlying fear, that when humans returned, they would not be the same species that had vanished. They might have powers and technologies capable of challenging entire empires, changing political balances, and even rewriting the rules of life in the galaxy. Amid these speculations, a few brave explorers and scientists tried to find traces of humans or their home planet. Expeditions traveled through uncharted star systems, searching for anomalies, energy readings, and signs of intelligent activity. They discovered strange artifacts that defied explanation, objects that seemed to combine technology and biology, machines that operated without fuel, and energy pulses that could manipulate gravity. While some dismissed these findings as natural phenomena, others insisted that they were evidence of human activity in hidden corners of the galaxy. Over time, the search for Earth became a mix of science, legend, and obsession. Scholars wrote detailed reports, military strategists created contingency plans, and governments prepared fleets, all because of the one unanswered question: what would happen if Earth returned? The fear of Earth's return was not uniform. Some empires prepared for war, imagining that humans would come back to claim revenge or to dominate the galaxy. They built massive fleets, weapons capable of destroying entire planets, and defensive barriers around their core systems. Others hoped for peaceful contact, imagining that humans could offer wisdom, advanced technology, or insights into the mysteries of the universe. They debated whether to approach any returning humans with caution or diplomacy, aware that even a single misstep could trigger disaster. Among all civilizations, one sentiment was nearly universal: humanity, once vanished, had become something extraordinary. They were no longer a small, weak species. They were a potential force capable of altering the course of the galaxy during this time. Some strange anomalies continued to occur near the old location of the solar system. Energy readings fluctuated in ways no sensor could fully explain. Dimensional rifts appeared and disappeared, often accompanied by bursts of unknown energy. Occasionally, explorers reported seeing ships or objects with design patterns that resembled ancient human technology, yet seemed far more advanced. Some scientists theorized that humans had been experimenting with interdimensional travel, creating these phenomena as a byproduct of their research. Others speculated that humans had made contact with a higher civilization, learning secrets and building ships capable of surviving outside the normal flow of time. Whatever the explanation, it became clear that humans were no longer confined by the ordinary rules that governed other civilizations. Despite the mystery and fear, a sense of anticipation began to grow among many species. The vanished humans had become a symbol of potential, a reminder that even a small and seemingly weak species could evolve into something remarkable. Their disappearance inspired new generations of explorers, scientists, and thinkers to push beyond the limits of known science. They tried to imagine what humans might have learned during 1,000 years outside normal spacetime. Could humans now control energy, matter, and gravity in ways no other species could? Could they communicate across vast distances without the use of ships or signals? The possibilities seemed endless, and they captivated the imagination of the galaxy. Even as centuries turned into a millennium, the fear of Earth's return remained real. Galactic leaders held emergency meetings, military fleets were put on alert, and secret contingency plans were continuously updated. They could not ignore the possibility that humans, once gone, had returned not as ordinary beings, but as something greater, stronger, and unstoppable. Some civilizations even started to establish alliances and treaties specifically to deal with the potential reappearance of Earth. Their fear was not just about humans themselves, but about the sudden shift in balance that their return could cause. What could 1,000 years of learning, adaptation, and unseen evolution produce? No one knew, but everyone understood that the galaxy could never be the same if Earth returned. And so, for 1,000 years, the galaxy lived in anticipation, fear, and curiosity. The vanished planet became a mystery that shaped the development of civilizations. Wars, politics, exploration, and science were all influenced by the question of Earth. Every anomaly, Every unusual energy reading, every unexplained phenomenon was studied carefully, as if the universe itself was whispering a secret about the fate of humanity. Species prepared for war, prepared for peace, and prepared for anything in between, all because of the lingering question, what had become of Earth? And what would happen if it came back? During this time, humanity itself, if it still existed somewhere outside normal space, was likely changing, learning, and preparing in ways that no one could anticipate. The galaxy waited unknowingly for a return that would change everything, while civilizations debated, speculated, and feared the day when the vanished Earth would finally come back. For every empire, every scholar, and every explorer, the vanished planet was a reminder that, even in a universe filled with countless stars and planets, one small blue world could leave an impact that would echo across 1,000 years. And so the story continued, the galaxy moving forward, yet forever haunted by the memory of a vanished Earth. Its absence became a legend, its mystery an obsession, and the anticipation of its return a silent, ever-present force shaping the fate of countless civilizations. Every theory, every rumor, and every secret preparation pointed to a single undeniable truth. If Earth returned, it would not be the same. Humanity might have grown beyond imagination, carrying knowledge, technology, and power that no empire could ignore. And in that thought lay both fear and fascination, as the galaxy waited silently for a day that might never come more, a day that might change everything. After centuries of speculation, fear, and anticipation, the galaxy experienced a sudden and extraordinary event that changed everything. For 1,000 years, civilizations had been preparing for the possible return of Earth, but no one could have predicted the scale and the manner in which it would appear. It started with a tremor in space, itself subtle at first, barely detectable by the most sensitive instruments. Scientists and navigators on countless planets noticed fluctuations in gravitational fields, disturbances in energy readings, and anomalies that could not be explained by known celestial phenomena. These disturbances were concentrated near the region of space where the solar system had once existed. At first, many dismissed them as minor cosmic events, a passing black hole, a gravitational wave, or an unstable star system. But as hours passed, the tremors intensified, spreading across the galaxy, shaking satellites, disrupting navigation systems, and sending shock waves of anxiety through governments, military fleets, and scientific communities alike. Then, as the tension reached a peak, a rift appeared in the void near the coordinates of the vanished Earth. It was unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed. The rift was enormous, stretching across light years, glowing with a violent, shifting energy that shimmered with colors beyond the normal spectrum. It pulsed with power, sending waves of energy across the surrounding space. Entire fleets of alien vessels stationed nearby were forced to retreat to avoid the destabilizing effects. Yet they could not take their eyes off the phenomenon. It was terrifying and mesmerizing at the same time. For the first time in a millennium, the question that had haunted the galaxy for 1,000 years demanded an answer. And then, through the heart of the rift, something unimaginable began to emerge. The object that came through the rift was Earth, but not as it had been before. The familiar blue planet, with its oceans and continents, had transformed. It radiated a strange, almost divine energy that distorted space around it. Cities, vast and magnificent, floated above its surface, connected by bridges of light and energy that spanned continents and oceans. Rings of structures encircled the planet like a protective barrier, glowing with power that no other civilization had ever produced. Humanity had returned, but not as the fragile, ordinary species that had vanished. They had been transformed, their civilization elevated to levels that defied understanding. Ships, colossal in size and design, emerged from the planet's orbit in perfect formation. They moved with an elegance that suggested intelligence and coordination far beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Every vessel carried a sense of purpose, precision, and power that immediately signaled to every observer. These were not humans as they had been before. The galaxy watched in shock and awe. Entire fleets that had once considered humanity insignificant now re-evaluated everything they knew. Every empire, every civilization, every council of leaders realized simultaneously that the long-feared return had arrived. Panic and excitement spread in equal measure. Some immediately began mobilizing their fleets, preparing to defend themselves or attack if necessary. Others tried to communicate, hoping to reach the returning humans diplomatically before any confrontation could occur. But it was clear from the moment Earth reappeared that humanity had evolved beyond the need for ordinary negotiation or warfare. The ships, the floating cities, and the planetary shields all indicated a civilization that had mastered technology, energy, and strategy at levels previously thought impossible. The appearance of humans was accompanied by allies that further astonished the galaxy. Mysterious beings composed entirely of energy traveled alongside the human fleet, their forms shifting and shimmering in ways that defied physical law. They did not speak, at least not in ways recognizable to any species present, but their presence alone conveyed an undeniable message. Humanity had acquired allies and powers that no one could challenge. The combination of human ingenuity and the support of these enigmatic beings suggested that Earth had not merely survived its thousand-year absence, it had transformed into a force of unimaginable strength and intelligence. Alien observers could hardly comprehend what they were seeing. Ships that had once been considered top-of-the-line military vessels appeared tiny and primitive next to the human fleet. Weapons of mass destruction seemed almost laughable in comparison to the energy shields and control systems radiating from the planet itself. Galactic leaders faced a terrifying reality for a millennium. They had speculated, planned, and feared. And now, their worst fears and wildest imaginations had been realized. Humanity was back, but no longer the species that had been underestimated and dismissed. The very fabric of space around the returned Earth seemed to hum with energy, and fleets that approached too closely found their communications jammed and their navigational systems disrupted. The humans did not rush into battle, yet every movement of their fleet conveyed an aura of controlled dominance, that they were powerful, precise, and utterly confident. The galaxy had expected uncertainty, chaos, or a timid species returning from 1,000 years of absence. Instead, what emerged was a civilization that had mastered itself and the universe around it. Observers noted the sheer scale of Earth's transformation. Floating cities were not merely technological marvels. They were centers of learning, energy production, and defense. Some structures resembled enormous laboratories. Others looked like colossal shipyards where new fleets could be constructed at astonishing speed. Rings of protective energy surrounded the planet, impervious to the most advanced weapons known to the galaxy. Even distant fleets could see pulses of energy radiating from the planet's surface, waves that manipulated gravity, light, and matter itself. No empire had ever faced a force like this. No military strategy, no defensive system, no alliance could have predicted or prepared for the appearance of a human civilization armed with a millennium of hidden knowledge, allies, and technologies. Despite the overwhelming display of power, the humans did not immediately attack or make demands. They moved with purpose and discipline, positioning themselves carefully in the void of space while their energy allies circled the fleet like guardians. Messages were sent, but they were cryptic and powerful, designed more to communicate authority than to invite discussion. Every action demonstrated not just power, but intelligence, strategy, and foresight. Observers quickly realized that this was not a species seeking revenge, but a species aware of its strength and capable of shaping events across the galaxy. Humanity had returned not as a simple participant in galactic politics, but as a dominant force that every empire would need to respect, understand, and, if necessary, fear. In addition to the extraordinary displays of technology and power, the humans themselves had changed. Reports from sensors, spies, and observers suggested that humans had evolved physically and mentally in ways previously unimaginable. They were faster, stronger, and more resilient. Their ability to coordinate complex actions across fleets of thousands of ships suggested heightened intelligence and perception. Some speculated that their consciousness had expanded, allowing them to process information across time and space in ways that defied ordinary understanding. Alien civilizations could only guess what kind of experiences, training, or interventions humans had undergone during their thousand-year absence. Whatever it was, it had resulted in a civilization that had moved beyond ordinary limits and could act with precision and authority that no one could rival. The reaction across the galaxy was a mixture of awe, fear, and chaos. Military commanders tried to prepare for a possible battle, but their ships, weapons, and strategies seemed inadequate compared to the human fleet. Political leaders debated diplomacy, but no precedent existed for dealing with a civilization of this magnitude. Scholars and scientists scrambled to understand what they were seeing, attempting to calculate the energy output of Earth, the scale of the fleet, and the capabilities of the allied beings accompanying the humans. And through all this, one fact became painfully clear. Humanity's return had changed the rules of the galaxy. For centuries, species had competed for dominance, built empires, and fought wars according to a set of understood limits. Now, with humans back, those limits no longer applied. The galaxy was entering a new era, one in which the vanished Earth had become the center of power, influence, and potential upheaval. As Earth fully re-emerged into its old space, fleets and civilizations across the galaxy had no choice but to watch, wait, and try to understand. Every energy pulse, every ship movement, and every floating city demonstrated that humans had not merely survived, they had thrived. They had returned, transformed, equipped with knowledge, technology, and allies that allowed them to dominate the physical, strategic, and perhaps even metaphysical realms of existence. Every civilization present had to reconsider everything they had once believed about the small, fragile species that had disappeared 1,000 years ago. Humanity was no longer ordinary, no longer weak, and no longer predictable. The sudden and dramatic return of Earth marked the turning point the galaxy had been preparing for but could never truly predict. The centuries of waiting, planning, fearing, and speculating had culminated in this singular moment. For the first time, every species confronted the reality of human potential in its most extreme form. The vanished Earth had returned, not as a curiosity, not as a threat yet to be measured, but as a civilization fully realized, armed with technology and intelligence beyond comprehension. What had once been a quiet, unassuming planet had become a force that could not be ignored, resisted, or rivaled. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge a new reality. The humans were back, and they were no longer bound by the limits of their past existence. This emergence set the stage for what was to come, the inevitable confrontation between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. But even in these early moments, it was clear that the humans would not simply follow the rules or act according to the expectations of other species. They had returned with knowledge, power, and allies that placed them on a level entirely separate from the rest of the galaxy. Observers, scientists, and leaders all understood one thing. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same. The vanished Earth had returned, not as a small planet of ordinary beings, but as a civilization ready to reshape the universe according to its own vision and power. The moment of truth had arrived. For 1,000 years, the galaxy had lived, with anticipation, fear, and speculation about what would happen if Earth returned. Now the time for waiting was over. The massive, transformed human civilization had re-emerged into the galactic stage, its power, intelligence, and presence immediately altering the balance of the known universe. Alien empires, many of which had once dismissed humans as weak and insignificant, now scrambled in a mix of panic and awe. For the first time, leaders faced the undeniable fact that humanity was no longer ordinary, no longer vulnerable, and no longer something to underestimate. Every fleet, every weapon, and every strategy that had once been considered the pinnacle of military or technological power suddenly seemed inadequate in the face of this new, overwhelmingly advanced civilization. The largest galactic empires reacted instinctively, mobilizing their forces in preparation for a confrontation. Fleets that had once dominated entire star systems were rushed toward the coordinates of the returning Earth. Warships bristled with weapons, shields were strengthened, and fleets took their positions in what they believed would be a decisive battle. The empires had planned for a long, brutal war, believing that if humanity had returned, it would have been to reclaim dominance or seek vengeance for its disappearance. Every military leader assumed that the humans would act aggressively, launching attacks without hesitation. They underestimated, however, the scale of what they were about to face. What emerged from Earth's orbit was not reckless aggression but overwhelming, calculated superiority. Humanity's first actions stunned the galaxy. As enemy fleets fired their weapons, expecting destruction, the human defenses responded with an extraordinary precision that seemed almost effortless. Entire squadrons of ships found their weapons neutralized, disabled without a single human vessel firing a traditional shot. Energy pulses emanating from the floating cities and planetary shields absorbed attacks, redirected forces, and incapacitated entire battle formations. It became immediately clear that this was not conventional warfare. Humanity's technology had advanced beyond mere destructive power. It had evolved into something strategic, almost surgical in its execution, allowing humans to subdue enemy forces without causing mass destruction or casualties. The galaxy watched in disbelief as the armies that had once been feared as unstoppable were rendered completely powerless. The humans had also developed unprecedented control over energy and matter. Fleets that had relied on conventional weapons found their attacks disintegrated mid-flight. Advanced warships equipped with antimatter cannons, plasma beams, and energy torpedoes were instantly neutralized by the invisible, precise manipulations of Earth's defenses. Some fleets experienced failures in their propulsion systems, leaving them stranded in orbit, completely under human control. It was a demonstration of total mastery over not only technology but the fundamental forces of the universe. The scale of human superiority became undeniable. Entire military empires that had taken centuries to grow were humbled in moments. What had once been considered the pinnacle of galactic engineering and strategy was now rendered irrelevant. The presence of humanity's energy allies added another level of complexity that no empire had anticipated. These beings moved independently around the fleets, manipulating forces in ways that defied conventional physics. Ships that approached them were instantly rendered inert, while energy waves disrupted weapon systems across entire battle groups. Observers quickly realized that humans had not returned alone. They had acquired allies whose abilities enhanced their own in ways that could not be matched. The combination of human ingenuity and the support of these energy beings created a synergy that made conventional resistance futile. Fleets could try to coordinate attacks, but each attempt was countered with an effortless precision that suggested humans could anticipate enemy movements before they happened. Even the galaxy's most powerful superweapons were powerless. Several empires, desperate to regain control, deployed their deadliest weapons devices capable of destroying entire planets, weapons that had been feared for centuries. Humanity's response was precise and controlled. Shields surrounding Earth absorbed the energy output of these weapons, dissipating it harmlessly across space, while carefully redirecting pulses to neutralize the source. No retaliation was necessary in terms of destruction. Humans demonstrated their power not through devastation, but through control, strategy, and technological mastery. The message was clear. Humanity could dominate without violence if it chose, but any attempt to challenge them would be met with absolute, inescapable authority. The scale of the human fleet itself was extraordinary. Thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, coordinating seamlessly with the planetary defenses and the energy allies. Every vessel acted as part of a larger system, executing maneuvers that no alien fleet could match. Even the fastest, most agile warships struggled to keep up with the coordination and precision of human operations. Observers noted that humanity had developed not only advanced technology but also a level of collective intelligence and coordination that appeared to be a form of shared consciousness. This allowed them to act as a single, cohesive unit across vast distances, anticipating threats, responding instantly, and neutralizing dangers before they could manifest. The galaxy had never seen a civilization operate at this level of unity and efficiency. The impact of humanity's return extended beyond immediate military dominance. Political leaders across the galaxy were forced to confront a new reality. Earth no longer belonged to a single empire or a single region of space. Its presence altered the balance of power, rendering old alliances, rivalries, and strategies obsolete. For centuries, empires had competed for influence, resources, and territory. Now, those calculations were irrelevant. Humanity's technological and strategic supremacy meant that no empire could dominate or oppose them without risking total failure. The traditional rules of politics and war no longer applied. Governments scrambled to adapt, realizing that diplomacy and negotiation would require an entirely new approach if they hoped to survive in the presence of a civilization that had mastered the universe's fundamental forces. Despite their overwhelming power, the humans did not attack indiscriminately. They demonstrated restraint, indicating that their goal was not conquest, but control and balance. Their actions were measured, precise, and strategic. This restraint have made their power even more terrifying because it implied that they could choose total destruction at any moment but consciously refrained from it. Alien civilizations watched in a mix of awe and fear, realizing that humanity had evolved not only in technology but in judgment, strategy, and the use of power. The galaxy had long feared the return of Earth, imagining chaos and devastation. Instead, humans returned with mastery, control, and purpose, demonstrating that their thousand-year absence had transformed them into a civilization that could dictate terms across the galaxy without firing a single destructive shot unnecessarily. The psychological impact on alien civilizations was profound. Fleets that had once considered themselves invincible were demoralized within hours. Commanders faced the impossible task of coordinating attacks against a civilization that seemed to anticipate their every move. Scholars and scientists struggled to understand the technology, while politicians debated how to respond without provoking further escalation. Fear and admiration existed side by side, creating a tense atmosphere in which every species understood that the rules of the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Humanity had returned not just with superior technology, but with a presence that demanded acknowledgement, respect, and caution. Even the civilians of alien civilizations felt the impact. Traders, explorers, and ordinary citizens watched the unfolding events through communications, networks, satellites, and sensors. Rumors of humanity's overwhelming power spread quickly, shaping public perception and altering expectations about the future. Some species were inspired, hoping to learn from or ally with humans. Others panicked, fearing that their worlds could be next if Earth decided to expand or intervene. The return of humans had created a shift in thinking, culture, and strategy throughout the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, every species understood that the vanished Earth was no longer a small, weak planet, but a civilization capable of shaping events across the entire universe. As the confrontation continued, it became evident that humanity's power was not limited to defense alone. Their ability to neutralize entire fleets, control energy, and manipulate forces across vast distances suggested that they could project power anywhere in the galaxy. They could respond to threats before they occurred, prevent conflicts before they began, and maintain balance on a scale previously unimaginable. This revelation changed the perspective of empires, forcing them to reconsider not only military strategies but also political alliances, trade networks, and interstellar policies. Humanity's return had not merely restored a planet to the galaxy, it had rewritten the rules by which civilizations could operate. The climax of this confrontation solidified one undeniable truth: humanity was unstoppable in ways no one had imagined. Entire empires that had dominated for centuries were reduced to helplessness, not through destruction, but through the precision, intelligence, and power of the returning humans. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated capabilities far beyond imagination, redefining what it meant to be a civilization in control of space, technology, and strategy. The thousand-year absence had transformed Earth and its people into a force that could not be challenged, resisted, or rivaled by any existing empire. Every observation, every calculation, and every theory confirmed the same reality. humanity had returned, and it had become something entirely new, something the galaxy had never encountered before. By the end of this confrontation, every empire understood that the era of ordinary conflicts, rivalries, and dominance was over. Humanity had returned with absolute superiority, not as conquerors, but as a civilization capable of controlling and balancing the galaxy at will. The climax demonstrated not just power, but judgment, strategy, and intelligence beyond the reach of anyone else. Fleets that had once been feared as unstoppable were humbled, governments reconsidered centuries of planning, and scholars began to rewrite their understanding of physics, energy, and strategy. The return of Earth had marked the end of the old era and the beginning of a new era, one in which humanity would be the central force shaping the future of the galaxy. After the extraordinary confrontation, the galaxy was left in stunned silence. Alien civilizations, which had once considered themselves supreme, realized that everything they had known about power, technology, and strategy had changed forever. Humanity had returned not as a weak, unprepared species, but as a civilization that had mastered the forces of the universe and emerged stronger than any empire could imagine. Yet, despite their overwhelming power and capabilities, the humans did not act with malice or aggression. Their actions were deliberate, measured, and thoughtful. They demonstrated that their goal was not conquest but balance, not revenge but order, not domination but the protection of the greater galaxy. This approach was unprecedented. No empire had ever been confronted with a civilization so powerful yet so controlled, so capable yet so restrained. The first action humanity took after asserting control was to transmit a message across the galaxy. The message was simple, yet it carried immense weight. We did not return for war. We returned for balance. The words resonated across star systems, transmitted through advanced communication technologies that bypassed traditional signals. Every civilization received the message simultaneously. There was no threat, no warning, no negotiation, just a statement of intent. It made clear that humanity's return was purposeful, that their thousand-year absence had been a period of growth, learning, and preparation, and that now they were ready to engage with the galaxy in a way that would reshape its future. For the first time, alien civilizations were faced with a choice: resist and risk being overpowered, or cooperate and learn from a civilization far beyond their comprehension. The humans revealed the story of their disappearance, finally answering the question that had haunted the galaxy for a millennium. Earth had not been destroyed. Instead, it had been transported to a higher dimensional realm by an ancient civilization, beings so advanced that their understanding of space, time, and energy surpassed everything known. These beings had recognized the potential in humanity and had provided guidance, knowledge, and tools that allowed the species to grow far beyond the limits of ordinary development. In this strange realm, humans learned to manipulate energy, matter, and even the very fabric of reality in ways previously thought impossible. They studied advanced physics, mastered technologies that could control gravity and light, and developed strategic thinking that allowed them to operate across entire star systems with precision and foresight. During their 1,000 years in this higher dimensional realm, humans also formed alliances with other extraordinary beings. These energy-based allies, capable of manipulating forces far beyond ordinary comprehension, became partners in humanity's growth. Together they perfected the technology, strategies, and abilities that would eventually allow humans to return to the galaxy as a civilization unlike any other. Their knowledge and mastery over these forces gave them an advantage so overwhelming that no existing empire could match it. Yet, this power was not used for destruction or vengeance. Humans had grown not only technologically but ethically and philosophically. They had learned restraint, understanding, and the importance of balance. They returned to the galaxy prepared not to dominate but to protect and guide. As humans re-established themselves in the galaxy, they offered opportunities for cooperation and knowledge share. Civilizations that had once feared them were now presented with a chance to learn, to advance, and to benefit from human wisdom. Human leaders made it clear that they would not interfere in the affairs of civilizations that chose autonomy, but they would act decisively against actions that threatened balance, peace, or survival on a galactic scale. Trade, technology, exchange, and education became key tools in humanity's new role. Their return marked not the beginning of a war, but the dawn of an era in which the galaxy could achieve unity, stability, and progress under the guidance of a civilization that had mastered both power and judgment. The impact on former empires was profound. Governments that had once relied on military dominance were forced to rethink their strategies and policies. Leaders convened in emergency councils to consider how to interact with humanity. Many realized that the old methods of war, intimidation, and control were no longer effective or relevant. Human technology and strategic abilities could neutralize the most formidable fleets and weapons with ease. This realization forced civilizations to adopt a new mindset, one of collaboration, innovation, and careful negotiation. Humans became a central authority not by force, but through a combination of power, wisdom, and the promise of mutual benefit. Despite their restraint, humans also demonstrated that they would not tolerate threats or chaos. minor conflicts or rogue fleets attempting to challenge Earth's authority were quickly neutralized with minimal destruction but absolute precision. This approach sent a clear message. Humans would protect balance and order without unnecessary bloodshed, but resistance would not be tolerated. Over time, even the most rebellious or aggressive civilizations understood that the new era required adaptation. Those who once feared conquest now learned that cooperation offered far greater rewards than defiance. Humanity's return had not only changed military dynamics but also altered political, economic, and social structures across the galaxy. Every civilization had to adapt or risk becoming irrelevant. The thousand-year absence had also allowed humanity to develop advanced systems for governance, communication, and coordination that extended across vast distances. Planets, star systems, and fleets were interconnected through a network that allowed instant strategic planning and response. Human knowledge had expanded to include insights from countless worlds, both known and hidden, and their strategic thinking allowed them to address challenges before they became crises. In many ways, humans had become a stabilizing force in the galaxy, capable of preventing wars, mediating conflicts, and fostering collaboration between civilizations that had once been at odds. Their return marked the beginning of an era in which the galaxy could function more harmoniously, guided by the intelligence, ethics, and foresight of a species that had proven itself capable of extraordinary achievement. Beyond their technological and strategic prowess, humans also inspired hope and curiosity. Scholars, scientists, and explorers from other civilizations sought opportunities to study human methods, learn from their experiences, and collaborate on projects that would advance knowledge across the galaxy. Cultural exchange flourished, and humans shared their insights into physics, energy, and governance, helping to elevate civilizations that had once been limited by their technological or social constraints. The human return demonstrated that growth, learning, and transformation were possible even for species that had once seemed ordinary or fragile. Humanity became a symbol of potential creativity and resilience, yet humans remained cautious and measured. They did not impose their will unnecessarily or dominate for the sake of power. Instead, they acted with purpose, wisdom, and a sense of responsibility that set them apart from any other civilization in history. Their thousand-year absence had not only given them knowledge and power, but it also refined their judgment and ethics. They understood the importance of balance, the value of life, and the necessity of cooperation. Every decision, every action, and every interaction was guided by these principles, ensuring that the galaxy benefited from their return rather than being overwhelmed by it. As centuries progressed after their return, humanity expanded its influence through collaboration rather than conquest. New alliances were formed, shared technology advanced civilizations across the galaxy, and humans acted as mediators in disputes that might have otherwise escalated into war. The presence of Earth became a stabilizing factor in the galaxy, a source of knowledge, wisdom, and protection. While humans were capable of overwhelming power, they used it to maintain balance rather than to dominate, demonstrating a level of maturity and strategic insight that no civilization had previously exhibited. By the end of this era, the galaxy had fundamentally transformed. Empires that had once sought control now focused on cooperation, innovation, and growth. Civilizations that had feared humans now respected and admired them, recognizing the wisdom, restraint, and power that defined their return. Humanity had proven that a species could disappear for 1,000 years, evolve beyond imagination, and return not as conquerors but as guardians, guides, and stabilizers. The vanished Earth had become a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and potential. Its return marked not an end, but a beginning, a new era in which the galaxy would thrive, under the guidance of a civilization that had mastered the forces of time, space, and morality. In the end, humanity's return was more than a demonstration of power. It was a lesson for every species in the galaxy. The thousand-year absence had transformed humans from a simple, ordinary species into a civilization capable of shaping the future on a galactic scale. Their knowledge, strength, allies, and wisdom allowed them to protect balance, foster cooperation, and inspire hope. They had returned not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as stewards of the galaxy, demonstrating that true power lies not only in technology or strength, but in judgment, restraint, and the ability to use one's abilities for the benefit of all. The galaxy would never be the same again, for the vanished Earth had returned, unbreakable, wise, and prepared to guide the course of history for generations to come.